Navigating the Forbidden Zone, Why Planes Don't Fly Over Tibet. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing questions in aviation. Why do planes avoid flying over Tibet? Let's get started. Tibet, with its majestic peaks and tranquil landscapes, is one of the most awe-inspiring regions on Earth. However, something mysterious occurs above it. Planes tend to avoid flying over Tibet. Despite its vastness, this region is often absent from flight paths, leaving many to wonder why. The primary reason lies in Tibet's extreme geography, with its high altitudes and towering mountain ranges, including Mount Everest. In case of an emergency, such as a loss of cabin pressure or engine failure, planes need to descend to lower altitudes quickly, but Tibet's rugged terrain makes this difficult. Additionally, the lack of accessible emergency landing zones and unpredictable weather conditions increase the risks for pilots. Given these safety concerns, airlines tend to reroute flights around Tibet, opting for safer paths that offer more manageable altitudes and greater emergency options. Let's take a more detailed look at these reasons. Number 1. Tibet's unique geography and aviation safety. Tibet presents unique challenges to aviation due to its extreme geography. Spanning over 1.2 million square kilometers, roughly the size of France, Spain, and Portugal combined, Tibet is vast yet sparsely populated, with just 2.6 million inhabitants. The region has only 8 airports, all situated at high altitudes, above 3,500 meters. These airports are primarily located in the southern parts of Tibet, with much of the region remaining inaccessible by air. The main issue isn't necessarily Tibet's towering mountains, but the elevated terrain itself, which creates serious risks for aviation. The Tibetan Plateau has an average altitude of around 5,000 meters, with peaks like Mount Everest towering over 8,000 meters. Although modern aircraft are capable of flying at altitudes higher than Tibet's average, the problem arises when a technical malfunction or emergency forces a plane to descend. In such cases, the high altitude of Tibet makes it almost impossible to find a safe, low-altitude area for emergency landings. This high-altitude environment creates the critical aviation safety concerns that lead pilots to avoid flying over the region whenever possible. Number 2. The emergency risk: cabin depressurization and oxygen systems. Cabin depressurization is one of the most serious emergency scenarios that pilots must prepare for. When an aircraft suddenly loses cabin pressure, oxygen masks deploy to provide passengers and crew with enough oxygen to survive. However, these masks can only provide oxygen for a limited time, usually between 15 to 20 minutes, far from enough to descend safely in areas like Tibet. The immediate response in such a situation is for the pilot to descend to lower altitudes where breathable air pressure is restored. Ideally, pilots aim to descend to altitudes below 3,000 meters to ensure safety. The problem with Tibet is that much of its terrain is above this critical threshold, often well above 3,000 meters. As a result, if a depressurization event occurs while flying over Tibet, it becomes incredibly challenging to find a suitable area to descend safely. The lack of lower altitude regions means that the aircraft may not be able to land quickly enough, putting passengers and crew at increased risk. This height-related challenge is a key reason why pilots avoid flying over Tibet when possible. Number 3. Navigating the tough terrain: no safe landing zones. One of the most critical factors that make flying over Tibet hazardous is the lack of safe landing areas. In aviation, pilots are trained to quickly assess the terrain and identify potential spots to make an emergency landing if something goes wrong, be it an engine failure or a critical malfunction. Unfortunately, Tibet's rugged and mountainous landscape leaves very few options for safe landings. The region is dominated by steep slopes, towering peaks, and very little flat, open land, making emergency landings nearly impossible in many parts. While there are a few airports in the southern part of Tibet, they are few and far between, and the high-altitude locations only add to the difficulty. Even if an aircraft could descend to one of these airports, the harsh terrain surrounding them, often covered with mountains or inaccessible valleys, makes it incredibly risky for a plane to safely land. With limited options and challenging geography, navigating Tibet's skies becomes a high-risk endeavor for pilots, especially in emergency situations. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe. Stay updated with more amazing facts and stories. Click the button and join us for more exciting content. Number 4. Turbulence and unpredictable weather. Flying over Tibet is not only challenging due to its high altitudes, but also because of the severe turbulence and unpredictable weather conditions pilots face. The towering mountains in the region create significant shifts in wind patterns, leading to violent and sudden turbulence. This turbulence can be far more intense than what pilots encounter in flatter, lower-altitude regions. The natural topography of Tibet funnels wind, causing it to intensify and create unpredictable air currents. These sudden shifts make flying through the region much riskier, as pilots must navigate through increasingly erratic weather. The weather systems in Tibet also change rapidly, with sudden storms and temperature fluctuations creating dangerous conditions for aircraft. With unpredictable weather and strong winds often causing turbulence, flying through Tibet becomes an arduous task for pilots. This combination of severe turbulence and erratic weather patterns makes the region a highly dangerous area for aircraft, contributing to the decision to avoid flying through Tibet's skies. Number 5. Safety measures and why pilots avoid Tibet. The risks associated with flying over Tibet are substantial, leading pilots and airlines to avoid this region when possible. While modern aircraft are capable of handling high altitudes, it's the emergency situations that pose the greatest danger. If a sudden loss of cabin pressure or engine failure occurs, pilots need to descend quickly to an altitude where oxygen is available. In Tibet's vast, high-altitude landscape, this is not always feasible. The region's average elevation is around 5,000 meters, with peaks rising above 8,000 meters, meaning aircraft would not be able to descend to a safe altitude in time. Furthermore, the lack of accessible emergency landing sites exacerbates the issue. With few airports and even fewer safe areas for forced landings, the consequences of not being able to reach a safe altitude or landing strip could be catastrophic. These safety concerns make Tibet's skies one of the most cautious areas for pilots, who prefer to reroute flights whenever possible. Number 6. The geopolitical factors, restricted airspace. In addition to the technical and safety concerns related to Tibet's extreme geography, geopolitical factors play a significant role in why planes avoid flying over the region. Tibet is politically sensitive, and the Chinese government exercises strict control over its airspace. While there are no formal blanket restrictions on all flights, many airlines opt to avoid Tibet to prevent potential political complications. Tibet is a part of China, and airspace near politically sensitive areas often requires special permits or routing, ensuring compliance with national regulations. This adds an extra layer of caution for international flights, as pilots and airlines aim to avoid any issues that could arise from flying near disputed or controlled zones. While the primary concerns for pilots are technical, such as the risks of cabin depressurization and the lack of emergency landing sites, the region's political sensitivity amplifies these issues. Pilots and airlines are generally more cautious when it comes to routes that involve Tibet, considering both the safety risks and the potential for diplomatic tensions. In this complex situation, geopolitical factors and safety considerations are intertwined, making it prudent to avoid the region whenever possible. As we've seen, the decision to avoid flying over Tibet isn't taken lightly. It's a combination of geographical challenges, safety risks, and geopolitical concerns that guide flight paths around this awe-inspiring region. With its extreme altitudes, unpredictable weather, and limited emergency landing zones, Tibet presents a unique set of obstacles that pilots must consider. While modern aviation is capable of handling high altitudes, the potential dangers of a technical failure in this area make it a no-fly zone for many aircraft. Whether for safety or political reasons, Tibet remains an enigma in the skies. We hope this journey into the world of aviation's most challenging routes has given you a deeper understanding of why planes avoid this forbidden zone. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep wondering and stay curious. If you find this fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss our deep dives into life's biggest mysteries.